Hey, yo, what up, everybody? Welcome to the first episode of the Generational Beef Podcast. My name is Tristan Terrell. I am a co-host as well as my dad,
Noel Terrell with Generational Beef.
All right, so the divisional round of the playoffs wrapped up this last weekend. We're looking ahead to the conference championship games. And I guess we can just start there. We'll go in order. Start with, I think, maybe your favorite victory lap here. The Bills-Broncos game. I'll let you.
I do think someone you knew called this game for sure. I believe what I said, because you were really stuck on this Josh Allen versus Bo Nix. And I think what I said was, this isn't Bo Nix against Josh Allen. This is Josh Allen against an elite defense and Bo Nix against the defense that's been average at best all year. You could argue terrible. Well, let me finish. So
Okay.
Here's the thing. I picked the Broncos for a couple of reasons. Reason one, Denver's a tough place to play. Altitude is real. I can attest to this as of recently in my life. And then in addition to that, you have one defense that's been really carried the Denver Broncos all season. Especially when you look at the fact that they've had a lot of close games. Bo Nix has had moments where he's been good, but most of the season he's been average to bad. But he's survived all of that because of this defense. And then you look at the Bills, who, when Josh Allen has played pedestrian this season, they've been absolutely terrible, including the game against our team, the Dolphins, where we destroyed them. But it was because Josh Allen was pedestrian to bad. So what I anticipated happening in this game is basically what did happen. Although the one difference is Bo Nix actually played a very good game, where Josh Allen was terrible and he was careless. It looked like early Josh Allen. And let me tell you something, because there's something else. Forced turnovers are a big deal, right? I don't think anybody's Bo Nix had one. The 4 turnovers were huge, especially the one at the half. However, there's another aspect that I think is being overlooked in this game. Can you tell me the Broncos' leading rusher?
No, okay, so
hold on. Answer the question.
Okay, so that's what
leading rusher.
So remember when I said I was going to surprise you with some of the things I said today?
All right, well, let me finish the thought then, since you're going to go off on a tangent.
No.
29, Bo Nix.
Yeah.
The Bills had a 117-yard rusher in James Cook.
No,
and they still lost the game.
The Bills had the Bills had 2 rushers that had as many yards or more as the entire team. Because Josh Allen had 66 yards. I mean, so he was 4 yards off. But the Broncos, against the absolutely atrocious Bills run defense, because you said they've been mid to bad all season. Their pass defense, now part of it is just how bad their run defense is, but their pass defense statistically is... Yeah, I mean, but their pass defense statistically has actually been relatively good this year. Their running defense is
but I'll give you that.
Sure. Their running defense is atrocious. And this Broncos team just ran 22 times for 70 yards against this Bills defense, 12 of the 22 of which were Bo Nix. And so one of my biggest takeaways from this game, first of all, I do believe Bo Nix just genuinely played his best game as a professional football player. Like, he was really good in this game.
He was.
My biggest takeaway from this game is how bad, and I haven't thought this all year because he, like you said, he was mid to whatever all season for Bo Nix was. My genuine takeaway from this game was how bad I felt for Bo Nix in this game, and not for the reason that everybody feels bad for him. Obviously, he had a chance to be a game away from going to a Super Bowl, and he broke his ankle. You got to feel bad for him for that. But the biggest reason I feel bad after watching that game is normally when you have a limited quarterback that you know is clearly good enough to win games, but isn't phenomenal, you've got something there. You've got an infrastructure. I'm not necessarily saying it has to be a Brock Purdy coming into the 49ers situation, because you're not going to get that, right? But you have a running game, or you have a great receiver, right? Tua had Jalen and Tyreek whenever he was good, and I get that it was short-lived, but he did lead the league in passing yards one year as a limited quarterback. He had elite speed all around him with a good offensive mind, right? Normally you have some sort of infrastructure in place, and outside of the coach and Sean Payton, Denver has none of it. And their receivers played relatively well in this game, right? But they don't have any big name, right? Like, Cortland Sutton is the number one, might be the 20th best number one in the league. Now, if you made him a number two, he'd probably be the third or fourth best number two in the league. But as a number,
probably true at 20. I'd say 15 to 20.
Right. I didn't count it. Right. But I'm saying in that
Mims has some potential as a two, but
sure. But he did nothing all year. I mean, like
he didn't.
And the running game is terrible, right? Like we said, 22 carries for 70 yards. 12 of the 22 were Bo Nix. And it's not even like I fault necessarily Sean Payton for calling the game that way, because there was no other option. The running game is just not good. And so it absolutely blows my mind. And I guess part of that is just a testament to Sean Payton calling a good enough game offensively, and then just really a testament to how elite this defense is. It blows my mind that this team has won 14 games and is in the conference championship right now because their offense is insanely bad. And that's even with, like I said, Bo Nix playing the best game I've seen him play as a pro. Now, on that point, how it shocks me, where I'm going to say that I was right about this game, where I'm going to say I was right, I said there was one way the Broncos could beat the Bills this week. One way. And I said they have to force Josh Allen to turn the ball over multiple times. And the reason I picked the Bills was because I didn't.
And what did I say when you said that?
I believe you said that the Bills might not score 13 points, which
I did say that.
So that's where you were wrong.
No, but I also said if anybody's going to turn Josh Allen over, it's this team.
But I disagreed with that statement on the sentiment that literally this team was the third worst in taking the ball away this season in the entire NFL. They only had 14 turnovers all season. They had 5 in this game, right? They had a third of their 17-game sample size turnovers in one game.
But that plays into the other part I had about this game, right?
Right.
Which is Josh Allen probably felt like he had to score every time, and he got careless with the football like
Absolutely.
early Josh Allen.
Absolutely.
Right? So I agree with you. It wasn't all about the Denver's defense, but part of the other thing that I was predicting was he's going to feel like he has to be Superman every time. And when you looked at that early in his career, that's when he always made mistakes.
Yes, but the difference I would say is that early in his career, like the first couple years of his career, he just couldn't move the ball. Like he was not a good quarterback, right? He turned into a superstar and then still had a couple turnover issues. But that really did start to go away the more he could actually be good at the game.
But I think there was a desperation level for him this season with no Mahomes, no Burrow, no Lamar.
Absolutely.
There was a desperation that he felt like I have to get it done now.
Absolutely.
If not now, when?
And for what it's worth, right, I do believe that on the turnover plays, the Broncos played great defense, right? The one at the end of the first half was completely that. It was completely desperation of Josh Allen. He looked like he was going to turn around and maybe try and lateral it, and nobody was there, and the ball got knocked loose, and you can't do that. And that literally is the difference in the game, as were all 5 of the turnovers, right? Like, but we talked about this with the Texans-Steelers game, about how you were talking about you were watching the Manning cast with Big Ben, and he was like, look, this team is +3 in the turnover margin, talking about the Steelers, and yet they're still down 10-6, and that was before, obviously, the Texans broke it open with all the turnovers. Yeah. But the Broncos were in the same spot. They were down 4-1 in the turnover battle and trailed for 13 minutes in the fourth quarter at home, right? I genuinely believe...
Josh Allen factor.
Right, well, so that's what I'm going to... The part of the thing that's so mind-boggling right now to me, along with, like I said, the offense, like whatever, is the fact that the Broncos, and you're gonna get, I know what you're, the Broncos defense, outside of 5 plays in this game, and I get that those are insanely massive 5 plays. Outside of 5 plays in this game, the Broncos played the worst defensive game of football I've seen them play all year. They turned the ball over against their opponent 5 times and still gave up 30 and won by 3 in overtime at home when they won 14 games this year. They did not play a good defensive player game of football. Right. They had 5 incredible defensive plays that obviously are the reason they won this game. And so I'm not taking away from the Broncos defense, because also, again, outside of the one at the end of the first half, were 4 incredible defensive plays. Like, they were phenomenal defensive plays.
Well, look, here's the thing.
I'm not taking anything away. But outside of that, they did not play good football. They got outgained by 100 yards. They allowed the Bills to possess the ball 40 minutes in this game. The Bills had, if you take away first downs due to penalties, right? The Bills had 8 more first downs in this game than the Broncos. Like, they absolutely, outside of the 5 turnovers, which is obviously the biggest piece of it, is obviously the reason the Bills lost this game. Outside of the 5 turnovers, the Bills absolutely dominated this football game, and the Broncos desperately needed every single one of the 5 turnovers to win this game. If they get 4 turnovers on Josh Allen, somehow they did get 4 turnovers on Josh Allen because James Cook had 1 fumble. But if they get 4 turnovers on the Bills in general, somehow barely losing the turnover margin by 3, the Bills escape on the road in this game.
Look,
right? They needed
I'll say one more
all
thing.
5.
I'll say one more thing. We'll put this game to bed, and we'll just admit I was right about it. But to be clear, if I were to start a franchise today and I could pick any quarterback in the league, I'm picking Josh Allen. This is not a knock on Josh Allen necessarily, but my point to you from the get-go was this isn't about Bo Nix and Josh Allen. It's about the 2 defense and who's going to play well. Because the other side of that is Bo Nix had the best game of the year, arguably for him.
Mm-hmm.
And that was because the Bills' defense is terrible. So let's be clear. Just because he had that game, I'm not anointing Bo Nix as the second coming for Denver or even the answer. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. I think that the jury's still out. Josh Allen is my number 1 pick if I'm picking right now over every quarterback in the league. So I'm not denying his capabilities. I'm just saying I felt like part of his bad play was the pressure he was putting on himself, and partially rightly so, because he knew he had to score a lot of points. And he accomplished that. Unfortunately, he had some really terrible plays that cost him. Is that the only reason? No, their defense was terrible. They made Bo Nix look like Josh Allen.
Now,
right? So
for what it's worth, to play devil's
right.
advocate, you said what?
And I was right, but go ahead.
Yeah. For what it's worth, to play devil's advocate for the Bills defense to some degree, there were 5 turnovers, right? And 4 of those 5 turnovers, the Broncos scored on, right? So, and for what it's worth, 2 of them, it was in plus territory, and they only got field goals out of them. Now, obviously, one of those was at the end of the first half, and so they didn't have a chance to not get a field goal. But there was another one, the one at the beginning of the second half, that was really just a great defensive play, strip sack on Josh Allen, where they had the ball on like the 15 or 20-yard line, and the Bills held them to a field goal, right? So for what it's worth, they did get 3 field goals and a touchdown, so 17 of their 33 points, so not all of them, right, obviously, but 17 of their 33 points, including the game-winning field goal off of a turnover, right? So,
oh, that's great. I said they'd win.
The other thing I will say, too, is I've seen, obviously, a lot of people talking about the last interception.
By McDermott.
Right.
Let's go.
I will see. I've seen a lot of people talking about the last interception, and first of all, not Josh Allen's fault. Like, Josh Allen threw a beautiful ball. It got there.
3 things, and then we got to call it on this game. First, you have to survive the freaking ground.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to say
it's clearly an interception.
The refs made the right call, for sure.
But it doesn't even matter. For the people saying, and what if they were right? What if the film showed, yep, you know what? It shouldn't have been a pick. It was a completion, blah, blah, blah. The game should have been over at the beginning of that drive when a clear and obvious hold took place in the end zone for safety.
Iffy.
Denver wins.
I don't know.
Nick, his arm was around his neck. Look, it was a hold. I don't care that they didn't call it. I'm not arguing that. What I am saying is for everybody that says that was an intercept or wasn't an interception, first of all, doesn't understand the rule. Second, let's just say it was. The reality is it should have been over with a 2-point safety because they held while Josh Allen and the linemen were in the end zone. That's the end of the game. It was first score goes or wins at that point. And Bo Nix is still available this week. So
ultimately, I'm going to have to concede here to some degree, which obviously I hate to do, but I'm going to have to concede here and just say ultimately any of 5 plays go differently for the Bills and they win this game. So that's the biggest issue, right?
That can be true of a lot of games. So.
No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Except for one this weekend, which I also called, but whatever.
But I guess my point is that ultimately I'm to some degree conceding because just turn the ball over one less time, Buffalo, and you win this game easily. So not easily, but you turn the ball over 2 less times, you definitely win this game easily. But ultimately, I guess I had the faith. I mean, they showed the stat after Josh Allen's first turnover. It was the first time in, I think, 427 consecutive playoff snaps that Josh Allen had taken that he turned the ball over. So I trusted that even if you turn the ball over once or twice, it wouldn't have been enough, which turns out to be true, right? I trusted he wasn't going to turn the ball over 5 times. And he did. You know, briefly, Sean McDermott. Like
I know.
how do we feel there?
I don't know that it's the right decision. He's obviously a good football coach. They've won a lot of games. They've won 5 AFC Easts under him. As a Dolphins fan, we know this. They've been dominant. I think I told you a month or so ago that the fact that they didn't win the East meant they had to go on a deep run. When you lost the East out of nowhere to the Patriots, lost the 1 seed to the Patriots, or sorry, 2 seed to the Patriots, and then you lose in the second round, I'm not shocked by it. Is it going to be better for them? I don't know. Like, I don't know who they're going to get. And so McDermott is a really good coach. I'm not going to say great. He didn't have a lot of success in the playoffs, but neither here nor there.
Patrick
He
Mahomes and Andy Reid
dominated.
have a lot to say for that.
I mean, he dominated the East, but the East isn't hard to dominate, or hasn't been for a long time.
So did one of the 5 best coaches of all time for 20 years. So
yeah, my point is that, is it a big accomplishment that once that guy is gone, you dominate it for the next couple of years when you're dealing with the likes of the Jets and the Dolphins and a Patriots team that was down? I don't know. Do I like it in this spot after some of the better options? Because look, if they had done it earlier, which you couldn't, I got that, but because you made the second round, if they could have got somebody like, and look, here's the caveat I will say, and I'm not a Tomlin fan per se, and we could talk about that at a later date. But if they were to get someone like him, when you look at when Tomlin had his early success, he inherited a team that already had a franchise quarterback, a great offense, and he built the defense, right? And that's where he really thrives. If I'm Buffalo, there's only one option out there for me, and I'm going to back up the Brinks truck, and that is to bring in Tomlin. The offense, you've already got the franchise quarterback. You bring in a good offensive coordinator. They can score points. If he can get the defense to be a top 10 defense, then that team can go on a deep run, right? He just has not, since Ben retired, been able to get quarterback right. So I don't like the firing necessarily. I think that Tomlin may have had something to do with that. Maybe that is the target, because there's no one else out there that I'm like, that guy's better than McDermott.
he was the tied for second, only behind Andy Reid at this point, tied for second with, I believe, Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan for the second longest tenured coach in the NFL since Harbaugh and Tomlin both got fired.
Yeah, when they left, that really put a big hole in it.
Yeah, well, because now number 1 is Andy Reid, and he's only been there for 10 or 11 years, I think. So it fell off far. It went from the longest tenured coach being hired in 2008 to the longest tenured coach being hired in like 2015. So, like now, the 3 people tied for the 7th most tenured coach in the NFL are Dan Campbell, Kevin O'Connell, and like Nick Sirianni, I think. So like you look at those 3 guys, and they've only been head coaches for 5 years, and they're like in the top 10 for most tenured coaches in the league at this point. So lots of turnover in recent times. But yeah, I would say it isn't shocking that it happened, and it kind of makes sense. I did see something today that was posted that makes you question, at least to some degree. It was, I think it was even a Bills fan page that was arguing on behalf of McDermott, and if anybody's going to be upset, it would be them, right? Was talking about like they didn't have a McDermott problem. It's like since Josh Allen has been there, the Bills have drafted 2 Pro Bowlers, and it was James Cook and Dawson Knox, and end of list. And so they were arguing more so.
I think it's probably more of a GM problem than a coaching problem.
I mean, the roster is not good right now.
I said, I'm not sure I like it.
Right.
I don't know that there's anything better. Tomlin, I think, is a fit for that reason, but I don't know. We'll see.
But Sean McDermott, for what it's worth, is a defensive coach and did have good defenses at
No, I
times
know.
in
I
Buffalo.
understand that. I
Yeah.
don't think he's as good a defensive coach as Mike Tomlin.
I mean, that's probably true.
So
That's probably true. All right.
next game.
The next one I would say is probably the easiest one of the weekend to, I mean, there's not a lot to say, I'd say, but
There is one thing to say.
41-6 bludgeoning in Seattle.
Who called this game? Do you know anybody that called it?
No, for what it's worth, I was trying to play devil's advocate. I was trying to think outside of the box when I picked the Niners. I literally said the reason I'm picking the Niners is because there is zero logic behind any reason to ever pick the 49ers in this football game, and that's been their entire season. So I'm picking them because there's no logic behind it. And then I said, I'm not going to be surprised when they lose by 30. And you said 30? And I said, and guess what? They lost by 35. So
here's what I will say, because I remember having this conversation. I don't know if you will, but I will jog your memory.
Okay.
Do you remember who they played in week 16?
The Seahawks?
Yeah. The Rams. They played the Rams. Okay.
Okay.
And that was the overtime game, or didn't go to overtime because they went for 2 to end it.
Right.
And that game was crazy. But then I also remember having this conversation even before that. And then it kind of went back and forth a couple of times. But when they played the first time and the Rams won, right?
Right. And Sam Darnold was terrible.
Sam Darnold was terrible. But I remember telling you, Sam Darnold, if I recall, turned the ball over 4 times in that game.
Yes, he did.
And I remember telling you, I've never seen a game like that where I was like, the winning team was clearly not the better team. And the reason for that was, if you'll recall, Seattle had a chance to win it or tie it to go to overtime.
No. They lost by 2. Yeah, it was to win it.
It was
they
to
lost
win
by
it.
2.
Yeah, and so they had a chance to win the game with a walk-off. It was a 40-something yard field goal.
Nah, it was like almost 60, I think.
I don't think that's right. But either way, point is, they had a chance to win it at the end of the game, even though Darnold threw 4 picks. Or I don't know if they were all picks, but he had 4 turnovers. So I remember telling you, it's weird that the Rams won that game, and I walk away from it going, I still think Seattle was the better football team. Right? And at that point, that's when I felt in my mind that Seattle was the best team in the league. I knew that in this game against the 49ers, the injuries were going to finally catch up to them. This wasn't going to be the game it had been a couple of times this season where they were relatively close. Seattle, I knew, was going to take it to them. I wouldn't have said 35. I would have said definitely double digits, maybe 14-17 would have been my guess. But to me, there was no question.
It was 61 yards. The missed field goal was 61 yards.
Okay, so it was longer than I thought, but still, they had a chance. And so the fact that they had a chance, even with all of those mistakes by Darnold, first, that defense is elite, and, we can do picks at another time, but I think it's obvious who my pick for this next weekend is. Seattle's going to the Super Bowl, and right now, I don't see an AFC team beating them. My prediction to win the Super Bowl right now is Seattle. So
the NFC West will win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and it's going to be Seattle. I mean, they're going to play at home against a team I already thought they were better at earlier in the season, even with a Rams win. So, all right, we don't have to talk about this game anymore. They got
the other thing I will say is just, it was really impressive to me, just all 3 phases of the game, just how dominant they were. And obviously it's easy to say that when they have a 95-yard kickoff return 10 seconds into the game, right? But just every time the special teams went out there, it just seemed like they were so disciplined, so well coached. Like, there were several times where the Seahawks got up and were electric because the special teams unit made a play, like even outside of the return touchdown. Like, they're just so good, so well coached in all 3 phases.
I mean, that made me think of 2 points on this game. First, as you know, I would put this is the best coaching job Kyle Shanahan's ever done.
Right.
And it's saying something with a guy like that. Now, you also know I have my problems with Kyle Shanahan, but this is the best he's ever coached a team with all the trials and tribulations they had, mostly due to injury throughout the season. What I will say, Brock Purdy has taken some heat today or in the last day or two. Brock Purdy, it looked even worse for him than it was for Herbert against the Patriots the other day.
I'm not going to go. That was insanely bad. I'm not going that far.
He was on the run the entire game.
Yeah, but
E
the
e
Herbert one was on
even with
another
e
level. I'm
I
not
mean,
even
Trent Smith was in there and
Trent
or
Williams.
Trent Williams was in there, and they still couldn't stop anybody, and, he did not have a clean pocket all game, period, and so it was much like the Herbert thing, and look, I'm not a my opinion on Purdy. I think he's pretty good. I think he gets a lot of crap because no one wants to admit they drafted him. I mean, for the 49ers, drafted him at the perfect spot. But everybody else, I think, gives Purdy a lot of crap because they don't want to be that wrong about him. I think he is a starting quarterback in this league. I think he's proven that. He's a winner. He's won in the playoffs more than most quarterbacks that are still active. And that's not a fluke. You can't do that in the NFL as a fluke. So it's
You can do it in the NFL with a stacked roster, though.
I mean, but they didn't have a stacked roster this year.
Yeah, and they won a game against a really bad team, effectively.
Anyway, the point I'm making is, it was just rough all the way around. The other thing is, as great as Kyle Shanahan was all year, he wasn't good in this game. I mean, it's just a fact.
I mean, you couldn't have had more of a polar opposite situation, though, because I would say with all the injuries, especially the one to Kittle, because that was massive, and then Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, I don't think that.
But you played this team close without some of those guys already. So
Not without Kittle, though.
All I'm
Like,
saying is, it was clear. You talk about special teams, you talk about defense. They were obviously extremely well coached on the Seattle side.
top to bottom
And they were
roster,
just not very good on the other side.
top to bottom roster, the Seahawks far and away have the best team in the league, and it's not close. The Niners, with considering the injuries, might have the 16th best team in the league.
I mean,
So,
on offense, right now, for sure, there's not a single position other than running back that I would pick a 49er over the Seattle roster.
not even
You
close.
could argue Trent Williams, but he's getting old. He's starting to be injury prone.
And even then, as a unit, it's not close. The Seahawks have.
No, I agree, and on the defensive side too. So I'm not arguing they don't have the better roster. They do
by a long shot.
And I would at this point take Darnold over Purdy. I think.
I think
Purdy's had more playoff success, but I think I would.
I'd put them in a similar tier.
All right, next game.
Yeah, there's not much to do with that one, and there's no interesting news outside of it. Nobody, whatever. But so next would be the Elements game. That was a rough one. Both sides. Obviously, one came out on top, but 28-16, Patriots over the Texans in New England. And we get to hate ourselves because in a week we're going to see
the Patriots
back in the Super Bowl.
This will be a game I went down as wrong. I predict the Texans to be the only road win of the weekend. And I did so because as great as Drake May was all year, he didn't play great in the first playoff game.
He didn't play great in this one either.
Well, no, he didn't, which means, I was right about that part, especially because this defense is elite. Look, I'm never a person that says you can point at a player or whatever. In this case, this is all on CJ Stroud.
Because at least with Josh Allen, when he had 4 turnovers, he still had 340 total yards and 3 touchdowns, and it was the reason they were in the game. Also, he was the reason they lost it, the biggest one, but he's the reason they were in the game. CJ Stroud was terrible.
Well, but the other argument, too, with the Allen thing is Allen was the only reason they were the 2nd seed.
No, they were the 6th seed, but
I mean, my point being, they were the only reason they were even a playoff team. Allen is always that, right? CJ Stroud got carried by the defense all year. Don't get me wrong, during their stretch run there, he had some good games in there. I don't know what's happened to him in the last 2 seasons, but from his completion percentage to the picks, the defense played good enough to win this game. Drake May had another game that was subpar, especially by his standards. I mean, he had the 3 touchdowns, but he had a pick. He wasn't 60%. He was 70% for the season. His yards per completion wasn't great. So the defense played good enough to win this game.
This just as easily could have been just as bad of a game for the Patriots. I mean, the Texans turned the ball over 5 times, right? 4 CJ Stroud interceptions and then a fumble. The Patriots turned it over 3 times, and Drake May had 2 fumbles that they recovered. right? They could have also
Yeah.
turned the ball over 5 times in this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, the defense is elite. The defense played good enough to win. CJ
And
Stroud
the
let
elements
the
were
team down.
horrendous. It was a very, 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 very bad game.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the NFL. It's this time of year.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
can't
yeah. No,
win,
for sure.
you're not a quarterback. And I still think I like CJ Stroud. I don't know what this was. Maybe he was pushing it after that early success in season 1. I don't know. I think I think the easy answer here is I have no doubt that they're in the right spot. He's built up his side of the ball, and they're the best. They're the best in the league. You could argue Seattle's right there, and Denver as well. But I think they're the best defense all the way around. So I think there's some things to build on. It's certainly not time to give up on CJ Stroud. We've seen flashes of what he can be. I think maybe they need to add a little opposite. Their wide receiver core has a lot of potential, but has tended to be the last 2 seasons pretty injury prone. So I think they need to bolster that. So if you were to, I think that division is getting really interesting. It's not as easy to say just because they made it this far, they're going to win that division. Jacksonville, I think, is going to come back super strong because that defense is also playing great. Lawrence had the best year of his career and looked fantastic down the stretch. That's going to be a tough division, and you never know what the Colts are going to be like when they come back with Daniel Jones healthy and the way they started. That could arguably end up being like the best team in the AFC next year, or the best division in the AFC next year, because the North I think is going to be pretty bad. But so anyway, not much more to say there. That's a game that CJ is going to look at and want back badly.
Yeah, for sure. A couple things I will say is that I do believe that there is some questioning of CJ potentially. But I
Oh,
do
I didn't say
believe.
not to. I'm just not doing it yet. I'm not sure
Yeah,
that's not true,
no,
but
no, no. I was gonna say, but right, because I'm with you. I'm not necessarily on that train right now. What I would say is that I believe all 3 of his years of his career so far, including his rookie year. His rookie year, he just somehow defied the odds and did it. He's been behind one of the worst offensive lines in football all 3 of those years. It's not good. And then of course, he's had major injuries to receivers. Of course, in this game, Nico didn't play. Tank Dell missed this whole year. And they were all banged up last year too, right? You're throwing to Jaden Higgins and Xavier Hutchinson in this game, and then you add the elements to it. It makes it really, really bad. Not to defend him or anything, but I think the other thing that you see, not to overly defend him in this game, but they were talking about it during the game, where all 3 years, right, they've won a playoff game, right? He hasn't gone into the playoffs and just laid an egg, right? All 3 years they won a playoff game. They beat the Browns by 31 his rookie year. They beat the Chargers last year by 20 in the wild card game, and then they beat the Steelers this year by 24, right? So they had 3 really good wild card performances, and then after that in the divisional round, he's lost all 3 times. And what you see there was, I believe his rookie year they lost to the Ravens. Last year they lost to the Chiefs, and this year they lost to the Patriots. What you see there is that when you get that deep in the playoffs, most of the time, unless you have a super stupid stacked roster, most of the time what you need is the better quarterback. And all 3 times he ran into a game where he was not the best quarterback, and you lost because you don't have the advantage playing in the wild card against a team that isn't as good as you. And so he's just losing to guys that are better quarterbacks. And I understand in this game, right, like Drake May didn't play well and the elements were bad. But I do obviously genuinely believe that Drake May is a better quarterback than CJ Stroud. Right. So I just think that you get to this part of the playoffs and you need that guy. And I don't know whether CJ Stroud is that guy or not. I think he's really good, and they're not going to give up on him, and nor should they. But I don't know if he's at that point right now. So it's interesting for sure. Last game, it's the Bears and the Rams. 20
well,
to
as you
17.
know,
What a game. Overtime.
I think I'm going
You
to
picked the
sum this up
Bears.
pretty quickly.
You
I
picked the
did pick
Bears.
the Bears. I did it. I mean, obviously, the crowd there is electric. I've taken you to a game there. You know what I'm talking about.
It's cold as
I expect
hell.
that is true. And it's even was colder than the Monday night game we went to in late December, a couple of years ago against the Vikings. So I did it mostly because of the home field advantage. The temperature was going to obviously be an issue. And in a lot of ways, it was. I mean, Stafford was sub 50%. He had
Yeah.
yards. He didn't have a touchdown. He didn't throw a pick. So, by Stafford standards, and he's obviously the MVP to me, this was a subpar game for him. So I think for all the reasons I thought, I that's why I said it. Now, here's the deal. Still took overtime to win the game. I think Ben Johnson would be my runner-up as coach of the year.
Caleb
Obviously,
is
Combe.
insane.
Well, but let me finish. So, I think Liam Combs, my coach of the year with what he did in Jacksonville, with a guy that everybody thought was washed.
Give me Shanahan, but I agree. He's right there.
Ben Johnson would be my runner-up. So I think what I would say is I think this is an amazing first year for the Bears. I think you do know you have your quarterback. I think you obviously know you have your coach, right? I think what was learned this year by Ben Johnson specifically, and Caleb to a certain degree, this team in the fourth quarter this season was electric. They were fun to watch, and they were clutch and cold as ice.
I mean, the
That
fourth
said,
the fourth and goal play was one of the single greatest plays of football I've ever
no,
seen in
I
my
mean,
life.
that throw was stupid, right?
And he did it several times this year.
I was on the plane when it happened, and it was like there was 4 people in first class watching my phone with me. What I'll say is this, and I expect this to get better, right? Like if I were picking today, based on what I know right now, this is a team I will pick to win the North next year. I think it also depends on who the Lions bring in as OC. It depends on who the Vikings bring in as quarterback. Surely they're not starting 9 next year. Right now, as the rosters sit and as the coordinators sit, I would pick the Bears to win the North. A lot of that could change based on, who Campbell brings in as the OC and what they bring in at quarterback with the Vikings. A lot of things could change. There's a lot of variables right now because those rosters are stacked, right? But the lesson for Ben Johnson here is you can't live this way, right? The Chiefs learned it this year. It worked for them last year. You can't live on last minute heroics every game and not in the NFL, not every week. And they just came up short this time, right? They did push it to OT. It took OT for the Rams to win this game. The Bears have to figure out how to get Caleb to play like fourth quarter Caleb at minimum in the second, or at worst in the second quarter. You can't wait till the end of the game. It's great that they came back so many times. You're right. He looks like an MVP candidate on some of those late heroics and late throws. You can't live that way in the NFL forever. And
I
it caught
mean,
up to him this weekend. So
I don't even think it's hyperbole to say that fourth down play, the fourth down play in the Packers game last week, the 50-yard throw that he had in overtime against the Packers in the regular season that was phenomenal. Plays like that are plays that literally only Josh, Pat, Herbert, and maybe Stafford can make, right? And of course, in terms of the last one, obviously Stafford can't make that play. He would have tried to throw it up
well, yeah,
three
he
three
wouldn't have
seconds
gotten away
earlier.
from the wall.
Right. He
Yeah,
would have
he
tried to
wouldn't
throw
have.
it up 3 seconds earlier, and everybody would have been covered, and it wouldn't work because he doesn't have the mobility to do that. But I'm saying, like, in terms of arm, obviously he can make that play, but that play can only be made by Josh, Pat, Herb, and Caleb, and like end of list, right? Like he's made some phenomenal plays. You're right. The consistency has to grow. I think more importantly, because I do believe that'll come with just maturity and then obviously furthering working with Ben Johnson. The biggest issue to me is the fact that the Bears defense led the league in takeaways, but they didn't do anything else. They were the anti-Broncos, right? The Broncos, incredible defense, didn't get a lot of takeaways. The Bears got a ton of takeaways, obviously very valuable and helps you to come back when you're down in the fourth quarter, right? But other than that, there's a reason they were down a lot of fourth quarters because their defense is not good. So you got to fix that. That's an issue too.
But
right?
I will say from a Ben Johnson perspective, the adjustments they made in the second half of this game were huge.
Yeah, I mean, they
The
played well.
defense looked elite. Honestly, in the second half, the defense looked elite.
Yeah, I mean, they played really well. They were locking up the receivers, which obviously they've got the best 2 receivers in the league, the best receiving duo in the league, probably, I would say. Obviously, Devontae's old, but Puka's really freaking good. So And Devontae, for what it's worth, I mean, just had one of the best red zone receiving seasons in the history of the sport. I mean, had led the league in touchdowns this year. I missed, 4 games, 4 games, something like that. So he was phenomenal. But yeah, I mean, in the second half, they got locked and they were
Look,
clamped, and
here's the
the
thing.
Bears played great.
Both of these teams are set. Next year, they're going to be back with a vengeance for sure. Like I said, I'm not picking the Bears to win that division yet until we see the draft, until we see what those teams do in free agency, what we see Campbell do at OC. If I were him, I'd be trying to back the Brinks truck up to get McDaniel.
News on that in a bit.
Okay. But that there's a lot of variables in that, but it's not going to be a stretch for me to pick them next season to win that division.
Absolutely. I believe they're
Which
in
2 years from last year is crazy to say.
I do believe that they are in the best situation to do so, right? The Lions riddled with injuries. I do
Well, they've already
believe
got the players and they've got the coordinators. They don't
right.
have to. I'm not saying they can't make their players better, especially on the defensive side, but I mean, offensively, they're stacked. They just need better consistency out of Caleb all game. I think they need to improve the running game a little bit, but I mean, they're in the better position because they don't have a lot of questions that there aren't pretty easy answers to.
Right.
Right. The Lions, their biggest thing is, can they stay healthy on the defensive side, and can they get the right OC in? Because I love Campbell as a head coach, that, but he's more of the CEO type.
Yeah, well, and
If
that's
he
what I was
doesn't
going to
have
say.
good coordinators, he struggles. He's like Sirianni to a certain degree. He's like John Harbaugh. Without the right staff around him, they struggle.
Anybody on the
So,
planet is ready to run through a brick wall for Dan Campbell, but he is not the X's and O's guy.
and even if he is, he's just not a play caller. He's just not good at it. I mean, he
Right.
did it this year. And I say that he's not good at it. Let's not forget, Jared Goff had a great year. Didn't
Statistically.
result in wins this year, but statistically, he had a great season.
But I do believe that they are better served finding a guy that is very good. Obviously, you're probably not going to get Ben Johnson, right? But, you
No,
got
I
to get
mean,
something
Johnson's elite.
that's an improvement.
So,
So, especially because they've got so many skilled players, and one of the things that Ben Johnson was great at, other than just the every down play, what was that he knew how to use those skilled players, thinking outside of the box, and to run these gimmicky plays that just really showed how skilled his players were, even more so than anybody even could have imagined. And obviously, you lose all of that ability whenever he's gone, and so now it's a very vanilla offense. Even though they do have a lot of skilled players, so there's still a good offense, it was very vanilla. And so it's like, you got to get something in there. And like I said, you're not going to get Ben Johnson, but,
all
you
right,
know.
let's pick the weekend games real quick, and then let's go on to the championship game.
All right. So you've got the Patriots going to Denver.
So here's the thing. I'm going to pick this game for the same reasons I picked it last time. This isn't a Stidham against Drake May. There's no comparison with those guys. Drake May is legit.
Naturally.
He's had a struggle last couple of games in the playoffs. They are fine at quarterback. Not concerned about it. You were the first one that said that he was the best pick in that draft at quarterback. It's looking like you were correct about that. But this is Drake May against the Denver defense, and this is Stidham against the Patriots defense, which has been overachieved under Vrabel, right?
They've been good this year.
Yeah, so I don't want to say anything there, but you have the home field, you got the elevation. I think Sean Payton is going to dial some things up. We know Stidham has an arm. So here's the thing. I'm picking Denver, but this has more to do with the Denver defense and the way Drake May has played the last 2 weeks. So
holy hell. I've been going back and forth all day on who I was going to pick to win this game, and you just made my decision very easy, because I'm not picking the Denver Broncos now that you did.
well, I mean, you can do that twice in a row if you want. That's fine. I'll be right twice in a row.
So for what it's worth, part of the reason that I've been going back and forth on this, first of all, like you said, Drake May has not had a good playoff so far. I do believe at some point that's got to turn around, right? And I get that this is a bad time to turn it around, but I don't believe this defense is any better than the one they played with last week. It's not worse necessarily, even though I think technically slightly, because the Texans defense I do believe is the best in the league. But at worst, the Broncos is at 3, right? So it's not worse, but I also don't believe it's better. It's equal competition to what he played last week. And assumingly so. Obviously, you got to go on the road now, and there's that elevation. But the elements, I don't think there's weather in Denver this weekend. Maybe there is because we've got it too. So maybe
I
there
was going
isn't.
to say there's weather everywhere this weekend, I think. So
Yeah, that's probably true. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the elements are going to be just as bad. I don't know.
I'm not
But
worried about the weather.
I mean, the weather is a major factor in this game for the Patriots, obviously. I do believe at some point it has to turn around if he plays enough playoff games this year. Eventually, he's got to have a good one. And ultimately, for what it's worth, the reason that this is even a question to me is because like I told you, Bo Nix to me was not even remotely close to the biggest reason that they got to the point they are in the season. Although he did play his best game as a pro this week, right? And so he was a big reason they won that game. I can't then go and be hypocritical and say, oh, now that he's out of the game, when I didn't think he was, the biggest part of their team anyways. Now that he's out of the game, they have no chance. I can't say that. And I don't believe that. I was still probably leaning Patriots. Like even if Bo Nix played in this game, I was saying, maybe 60-40 Patriots, right? But now that Stidham's playing, I would say maybe it's 65-35. Like I do still believe the Patriots are going to win this game, and I was going to pick the Patriots even if Bo Nix was playing, most likely. But I can't just sit there and say that the Broncos have no chance when I was, to some degree, discrediting Bo Nix already anyways and saying that, like, he's not the reason this team is as good as they are. And now he's gone, so I can't just be like, oh, they have no chance, right? So I'm not going to do that. But I do still believe that top to bottom, when you consider both sides of the football, the Patriots are slightly better because they do actually have a good offense, right? And Bo Nix was the only reason last week that their offense was serviceable, right? They still didn't really score many points outside of,
All right. Who you
turnovers. Anyways, I'm picking the Patriots. A good portion of it is because you just picked the Broncos, but I had been going back and forth on it all day. I am going to pick the Patriots just because I do believe that.
Hey, but if you're wrong, I don't want you saying next week. I told you I only did it because you picked Denver.
And that's completely fair. And I'll own up to it because I do also, like I said, I've been going back and forth. So it's not like it was like, oh, I was picking the Broncos and now I'm not picking the Broncos because you did. But I'm picking the Patriots. Their defense is really good for what it's worth.
Next.
So now we've got Rams, Seahawks, 2 electric matchups already. Rams won by 2, Seahawks won by 1. Whole season series 1-1, separated by a combined point.
Seahawks by 7.
7?
Yep.
I mean, the spread's got to be like 1.5 right now. I'm sure. I don't know exactly, but
I want to say double digits, but I'm going to say 7.
Double digits.
Seahawks are the best team in the league.
Listen. Matthew Stafford.
In fact,
for what
they have, if I'm just comparing rosters, there's only 2 spots that are in question. Obviously, you're picking Stafford right now, not long term because he's not close to the end, but Stafford over Darnold, that's a no-brainer. Doesn't matter how well Darnold plays in this game. Stafford's a better quarterback than Darnold. Puka, you've got Jefferson and Chase are 1A, 1B, however you want to rank them. I put Jefferson as a slight edge there, but whatever, right? Then you have a little bit of a drop, and then you've got 2A and 2B, which is JSN and Puka. I put JSN a little higher than Puka. Given that he's playing with Sam Darnold, Puka's playing with Matthew Stafford. And so I give it a slight edge to JSN. But outside of those 2 positions, one of which is not debatable, which is Stafford, the other which is debatable, every other roster spot on there, I'm picking someone on the Seattle's roster.
I mean, I would say that Kyren Williams is better than either Seahawks running back by a good margin. But
okay, I mean, that's debatable still. Walker's good. You got Charbonnet.
He's good, but he's not. Well, first of all, Zach Charbonnet is out for the year, so got hurt in that
I'm just saying as an overall roster. So I'm just saying that really outside of 2 or 3 positions, there's no question that whoever you're picking is on the Seahawks roster, right? And so because of that, they are clearly the best overall football team. You're right. If they are, not that you've said anything about the game itself yet, but if Darnold goes out there and throws 4 or 5 picks, will they win? Probably not in a playoff environment. I just don't think that's what he's going to do. I think he's actually going to have a good game. And this goes back to some of the arguments I've made earlier in this playoff run, which is this isn't Stafford against Darnold. This is Stafford against an elite defense and Darnold against a really good defense.
So where I will say it's different, right, is that, like I was talking about in the Niners game, when you look at the Niners roster as it was in that game, the Niners might have had the 16th best roster in the league, and the Seahawks have the best. In this game, the Seahawks have the best roster in the league, and the Rams probably have the second, right? So, yes, you're right. Outside of Stafford, Kyren, and Puka, and obviously Puka, it's a toss-up. Yes, they do have an edge at most, if not all positions on the rest of the roster. However, it's not like it's a massive margin. They're all close. And by the way, the biggest gap, and it hasn't necessarily played that way so far in the playoffs, right? But the biggest gap is at the most important position, and that's the quarterback, right? And not to take anything away from Darnold, but that's the biggest. One of them's
Well,
the
I
MVP,
just said that, right?
right? But that is also the most
In their
important position.
prime, in their prime, you're taking Stafford over.
Well, even today,
Even if
you're
Darnold
taking,
ends up, even if
even today.
Darnold ends up, huh?
even
Yeah, I
today, not
know.
just in the,
My point is, even if Darnold ends up being a Hall of Famer, he still had really dark days the first 5 or 6 years of his career that are never going to put him above Stafford. Stafford wasn't always in a very good position. And you look at Stafford in 3 of the best wide receiver years of all time, he was the quarterback, right?
well,
And so there's
so
no questioning that.
when you have
But
two rosters this good, right? And obviously, yes, the Seahawks roster has an edge, right? But when you look at two rosters this good, the two most valuable and important positions are the quarterback, which the Rams win, and the coach, which, credit to Mike McDonald, he's been phenomenal. The Rams also win, right? Sean McVay is the best coach in the NFL.
I'm not going to go there. He's a top 5 coach without a doubt.
Who are you putting above him?
Well, Andy Reid first.
I just think
Sean McVay has 1 Super Bowl win.
he's also been he's not 40 years old.
No, I know that.
Did you see that stat, by the way?
Okay, just look at Andy Reid since Sean McVay was in the league. Right now to say Andy Reid's not the best coach in football is ridiculous.
He had some questionable stuff going on this year.
I'm not saying all coaches do.
I would say in the last 3 years, he absolutely has not optimized Patrick Mahomes. I believe that, right?
But I think part of that was Patrick Mahomes.
I think Patrick Mahomes has played phenomenal football. I think that obviously there's been mistakes, but I believe that Patrick Mahomes, top to bottom, has played mostly.
Last year, their defense carried them to a Super Bowl, and then he got lit up in the Super Bowl.
Well, because the offensive line was atrocious.
Anyway, not going to go down this road with you.
And anyways, I believe either way, even if you think Andy Reid is 1, okay, fine. Sean McVay is 2, and Mike McDonald, after 2 years, you got to prove it, but might be in the top 10, right?
He went to Super Bowl this year. He's top 5, and there's no question.
That's probably true, right? There's not that many head coaches that have won a Super Bowl, and then when you take out one of them being Nick Sirianni, is like
2 years ago, no one thought the Seahawks were in the realm of competing.
Yeah, absolutely not. Mike McDonald has done an incredible job, and I think he's a really, really good head coach. But when you compare him to one of the best in the sport, obviously McVay wins that. So when I'm talking about,
I picked the Seahawks by 7. What are you picking?
I'm going to go Rams. I think it's really, really close. I do think that Darnold overall has a good game. I think that he makes a couple plays late that probably cost him somewhere, whether it's a turnover or just missing a throw. I don't know. I think that at the end of the day, Stafford hasn't really played a good game in the playoffs yet. I believe this is the game, and I get it's an elite defense. But I'm picking the Rams. So
what was your record over the weekend? Because I went 2-2 at the end.
So did I. Because I picked the Pats and the Rams.
Who'd you pick in the national championship game?
I said Indiana would win. I picked Miami to cover the spread, which did happen, by the way. So let's go there real quick.
Because I went 3-2. Straight up.
So did I, but I picked Indiana to win. Holy hell, Fernando Mendoza, dude. And more importantly, maybe even Curt Cignetti. The 4th down, go for it calls got me juiced. And of course, the Fernando Mendoza run is absolutely absurd. And for what it's worth, I had a parlay in that game with Ruben Bain, the Miami Edge, over half a sack, which he got, and Fernando Mendoza anytime rushing touchdown, right? Which he got on that play. So I was fired up. That was electric for me. So that
Look,
was a
here's the thing. A couple of things on this game, and it's more about the Indiana Caesar. Obviously, I picked Indiana to win. So a couple of things. I would say arguably you have to start saying that this Indiana season was the best college football season of all time. There's never, hold on, let me finish. There's never been a 16-0 football team. That has not occurred. I'm not saying that this team would have beat the 19 Tigers, right?
they wouldn't have.
They wouldn't have. No one could stop that team from scoring. When you look at the talent that was on that team and who was on that team, I'm not saying that. But no one's ever been 16-0.
That's
Would
true.
that team have gone 16-0 if they needed to? Sure. Now, when you look at the absolute talent that was on that LSU team, and then you look at I don't want to say lack of talent because I think that's disrespectful, but at least on paper, right?
The
lack of talent,
prospect talent, the coming in talent.
Correct. Right?
Yeah, that's fair.
This tells me two things. There's one thing that's undeniable.
Curt Cignetti's really freaking good at his job.
It's the best coaching season in the history of college football.
I absolutely I'll give you that. Ed Orgeron was a mid coach at best. I mean, he just had a stupid stacked roster.
I don't see how that's even debatable with what he did with, right? In a school that, by the way, is literally the most losingest team in Division I history. So, and he did it in 2 years. I mean, he was 27-2 over a 2-year span with a team that doesn't win football
And by the
games.
way, in those 2 years, those losses were to Ohio State in the regular season and Notre Dame in the playoffs last year.
Right.
That's it.
So I think
at
first,
Notre Dame, by the way, in South Bend.
Right. First, I think, to me, there's no question. I don't see how there's even an argument or a debate. This is the best coaching season in the history of college football. I just don't see how it's debatable. The second piece, to your point, is there an easier guy to root for than Fernando Mendoza?
He's good, dude. And
authentic. He's legitimate. If the Raiders draft him, they don't have to worry about character issues. Like, this guy he's not going to be going out and getting into trouble. He's not going to be racing his Lamborghini down the strip at 100 miles an hour and killing people. Like,
shout out. What a pull. Right? What a mention.
Some rugs, right? So look, here's the thing. As a Dolphins fan, pull out every stop, baby. Give the Raiders whatever they want. Bring Fernando home. It's never going to happen. But
for what it's worth, the Raiders are going to wreck Fernando Mendoza's career anyways. Like, I don't expect it to be great because they're in a terrible situation.
Talent on that team. If they get the right coach in and they can do something with that offensive line.
The offensive line is so bad. The offensive line is insane.
But there's some talent. There is some talent there.
Yeah, I mean, Ashton Dinty's good and Brock Bowers is good, and that's the end of list. Like, Max Crosby, but, like, end of list. Like, the team is terrible. They traded away Jacoby Myers to the Jags, which, by the way, turned the entire Jag season around, giving Jacoby Myers to Trevor Lawrence. Like, that's a big part of why he had the turnaround he did.
The other thing I would say, and
they have nothing.
This goes to Mendoza, which is two things. First, tough as hell, man. That hit that should have been called an illegal hit early. We're number 8. I forget his name on defense for Miami. Just basically stopped in front of him and launched his head under his chin strap. Like, he was getting lit up last night, and he is just a super tough guy. So I think that's just an observation.
Yeah.
The second thing is, and it'd be interesting to look some of the data because not all of what Fernando does shows up in the stat sheet.
No, I
think
agree.
Statistically last night, it doesn't look great, right?
No, I mean, he didn't have a great game. He didn't throw a touchdown.
Statistically, he didn't, right? But he did have a great game.
But he did everything they needed to do to win.
Right. And like you said, that 12-yard run, he only needed 4 for the first down, but he was not going to be denied.
No.
And so,
insane.
Yeah. So what I would say about him, and it's interesting, I'd have to really go back and do some data mining to know for sure. outside of the Joe Burrow year and maybe one of the Tim Tebow years, right? Has anybody ever played better after winning the Heisman than he did in this playoff run? Like, a lot of times you see a drop off. When Baker won it, there was a drop off. When Kyler won it, there was a drop off once they got to the playoffs,
Oh,
right?
whoa. Hold on.
I don't want
Baker
to get
won
too
the
bad.
Baker won the Heisman and then went and scored 48 on a Georgia defense. Don't put that on Baker. Whoa.
Fine, but
Lincoln
I'm just
Riley lost
saying,
us the Rose Bowl.
I'm also talking wins and losses here. So I'm just saying, have we?
I mean, yeah,
It's
he went 0-1 after
player.
that to Georgia because Lincoln Riley
It's
is terrible.
I'm not going to argue that. All I'm saying is that he made the plays when they needed to be played, and he got W's after winning the Heisman, and that's just not common, right? Very few guys actually do that. You go back to I like to, as an OU fan, go back to Jason White wins the
Oh, Jason White.
Heisman.
Yeah.
I mean, Heupel didn't win the Heisman and went on to win the championship.
Right.
Jason White won it and then didn't win it. So we've had our fair share of quarterbacks get the Heisman, lose the Natty, right? So I just he was never satisfied. I think he had and a
Did
guy that's
Bradford play for the
possible.
Natty? Yeah.
I don't remember if they got to that game or not. Obviously won the Heisman, but I don't know. I look at it and like I'm not going to count a Tebow year, and I'm not going to count obviously Burrow's crazy year. Comparing what Fernando did this year to Burrow's
Right.
stupid.
Best single season in the history of the sport.
Well, I mean, he had 2,300 more passing yards and 19 more touchdowns. That's a season for some quarterbacks, and that was the difference between the two.
I mean, that was literally what's his John Mateer's season this year.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I mean, look, but let's also be clear. Fernando didn't have Chase and Jefferson.
No, of course not. And I'm not trying to call situations equal, but if you gave him Chase and Jefferson, I don't think he would have had 60 touchdowns this year.
I'm not going to say yay or nay, probably not. But my point being that
you're not wrong.
Burrow had 1A and 1B NFL wide receivers at the college game against college corners. So let's not forget about the weapons.
And then Derek Stingley is one of the best corners in the league at this point. He was on that roster. Patrick Queen's an all-pro linebacker at this point. He was on that roster. Like, that team was stacked.
So let's just not – I would just say it's without a doubt the best coaching year in the history of the game. I think Fernando played as good as maybe third ever when it comes to what the quarterback did after winning the Heisman. The most wins in a single season by a college team. Like, and you look at what I saw something the other day. I think it was the OC. Like just 2 years ago, he was at a small, tiny college for free. His wife was, paying the bills, and like it's insane. And he just signed a multi-million-dollar deal, which is awesome. But they do it the right way. The attitude is correct. I think it looks like, for the most part, you'll never know, things will pan out the way they pan out, but it seems like they bring high character guys into the program, which is cool. And we'll see, do I expect them to repeat next year? Probably not. It's hard to do. And, you're going to have some guys that aren't done. Maybe they'll choose to stay. Maybe they'll choose to get some NIL money somewhere else.
I don't know the exact number, but they did have the highest number of fourth or fifth year college players in the entire nation, which means the vast majority of them after this year are out of eligibility. So they're going to lose a lot of guys,
but who knows what that means anymore. Carson Beck
no, for sure.
Beck hasn't taken a class in 2 years. I don't know what eligibility means anymore.
I'm 90% confident he took a class in the fall because I think he had to.
You do not. They ask him that in the post game or the pregame or something. He has not taken a class. He graduated in 23. He has not taken a class in 2 years.
I mean, anyways,
student athletes, my ass. That's not what it is anymore.
I agree. I think that an easy way to kind of start to clear up some of this stuff in terms of NIL is you get one or the other, right? If this is a business decision to you and you're coming to make money because you're one of those guys, that's fine. Make the money. Right? You don't have to go to school, whatever. If you're a student athlete, you're a student athlete, right? you don't get the NIL money. Or maybe you do, but it's not the level that they do. But some of them are like team-wide deals. You get the
I don't
team-wide
care.
deals.
They just
Other
need to
than
make
that,
it.
you get the free education, right?
They just need to make a decision. But there's two things that have to change, right? The first thing is either you need a salary cap,
Absolutely.
an NIL spending cap for each team, so that there's still going to be discrepancy between your Alabamas, Oklahomas, right, Georgias of the world, and Vanderbilt, right? There's
Right.
still going to be a difference there, but at least
But
you
there's
can
a limit.
minimize it. The other option would be having a secondary piece of that would be maxing out what an individual player can make in a season, right? So that the NIL money goes further.
I mean,
More
hey,
people get
for
money.
what it's worth, if you want to use it to pay to play, I mean, that's what Miami did. They paid Carson Beck like $9 million this year to go there, and they made the national championship game. Fine. But call a spade and call it that, and yeah, limit that. If they have a $50 million salary cap and they give 9 of it to Carson Beck because they just paid to play to win, fine.
The other thing is you've got to put some rules around the transfer portal.
There needs to be. So I think one thing.
Hold on. The fact is, what the transfer portal has turned into is the equivalent of as if at the end of every NFL season, everybody was a free agent. It's ridiculous, it's stupid, and it's not fun to watch.
So I agree with that. And I think that one thing that needs to be done kind of to some degree is you can, with NIL, you can make them sign contracts. Like, yeah, you're getting $10 million in NIL over 3 years, right? But it's a 3-year contract. You got to play 3 years. And for what it's worth, right now, there are some teams starting to kind of do that right now. Duke just announced today that they're actually suing their quarterback because he entered the transfer portal, and they believe that violates the NIL deal that they had signed for him when he, committed there. So there are teams trying to do it. I don't know whether or not it'll work, but I haven't read the nature of his contract. But there are teams that are trying to put that kind of thing in place. Establish contracts, because that also has a contract length involved as well. And so then it's like, it doesn't have to be a 4-year deal, right? But it shouldn't be everybody's contract runs up every year, right? So,
well, I mean, long term it can't be. I'm just thinking of this from a fan standpoint.
Agreed.
Used to, I could have named half to 3/4 of the OU roster. I can't do that anymore.
No.
Like,
and the other thing too is that I just think that the NFL is a business, obviously. And so as much as I am invested in it as a fan, and it is an emotional thing and I have passion for it, I also can look at it logistically and from an outside perspective and be like, okay, it's a business, so I understand why that move is made. College football is now operating as a business, and it never
well, it
has.
has been for a long time.
Well,
the players are just starting to get some of the money.
I'm saying, like,
it's not like that money was going to give all Oklahomans a free education.
No, for sure. I'm not
could
saying
have easily done with what that meant.
I'm not saying that it wasn't a for-profit thing already, but I'm saying that it has now been run as a business in terms of we're optimizing that and we're using it to, pay to win with paying players and that kind of thing. And I believe that in the past, even whenever, yes, they care about the bottom line, the basis of college football was based around tradition and based around the community and the fan base and these players going to school here and feeling a part of this community. And that's not a thing anymore, partially because of the transfer portal. So no, John Mateer, who's only been here for a year, doesn't hate Texas's guts like Baker Mayfield did because he was there for 3 years. Well, he was there for 4 years, including the year he sat out.
Well, if you don't hate Texas's gut, I don't want you playing on my football
team.
But
that's my point. We just this year got a receiver in the transfer portal from Texas.
No, I know.
I hate that.
He grew up there. He wanted to play there his whole life.
I hate that. That's terrible. I need people that hate Texas's guts, just like Bama needs people that hate Auburn's guts, right? And it should be that way. And less, because it's a business now, even for the players, you're moving away from that. And then you take it completely away when you just form these 3 super conferences. Well, 4, I guess. I mean, the Big 12 and the ACC are kind of whatever. But you've got these 4 super conferences. All tradition lines are lost. Yes, nobody in Oklahoma that is a Sooners fan actually cared about Bedlam because it didn't really matter. But it was still that game where it's like, okay, it's
Well,
a
but that was
rivalry
not a
for
rivalry. Texas was.
no, for sure, but it's a rivalry for them, and it's fun for us because we just get to big brother them and
Well,
like,
they're
ha
the
ha
ones
ha,
that didn't
y'all
want
actually
to.
think it's a rivalry.
Yeah, but
We don't do that anymore. Yeah, no, obviously we offered to,
we
but I guess
offered to keep it going.
yes, but I guess my point is it never would have ended if the conferences didn't realign, and that's part of it just being a business and a money grab more so than ever before. All tradition lines are gone.
All right.
It's the transfer portal. It's conference realignment. I hate it. It sucks. As soon as
Quick
OU has
side note.
2
Quick
losses in a
side
year,
note,
I
and
check
then we
out
can
to
go
the
on to
playoffs.
quick side note. Then we go on to the coaching carousel, and then
Got you.
be done. We may need to get tickets for the first game of the season next year at OU.
Is it New Mexico?
It's Lobos at OU.
All right. Holy hell! Hopefully, in a couple years, we're not going there. Oh, I do not want to go to that game.
No, I went to the UNM New Mexico State game this year, and it was crazy.
Yeah, it's
But they are playing in Norman next year.
All right. Well, I'm sure
They
tickets will
just signed
be.
the coach back. The coach is actually a pretty good coach. They've got some decent talent. I mean,
Their
they
bowl
got
game
no
was
shot.
fun. Their bowl game was fun. I
Yeah,
did
and
watch it.
I mean, look, they got no shot to win in Norman, but they are an improving team.
Right. Nor did they have a shot to win in Ann Arbor this year, and they lost that game, obviously. But
No, but they played Michigan tough.
they did. One, couple things,
Right.
couple other last things on college football that are interesting. Alberto Mendoza today transferred to Georgia Tech. I mean, that's cool, and he might be able to.
They brought in that other guy. I'm assuming that's why he did it.
Yeah, well, he might be able to start at Georgia Tech too because Georgia Tech's quarterback was Haynes King, and he had a really, really good year, but he's out of eligibility. I think he declared for the draft, so he'll probably be a mid-round pick. But he might be able to start there, and they had a really good year too for Georgia Tech. So coaching carousel. I guess we can start with the names that are already crossed off the list. We can start with Stefanski in Atlanta. I think that's cool for them because I think
it's a good hire. I'm not sure about Penix.
No,
but it's a good hire.
But I think right now they're a quarterback away. I think their defense played pretty well this year, and I think that you hope that you don't lose much of that losing a defensive guy in Raheem Morris, but their defense played pretty well this year, and obviously all their skill position players are good, especially Bijan, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts had a pretty good year.
For him, he did.
For Kyle Pitts. And you just hope, I think the hope is that you hire Stefanski, and
it's a good
that's
hire.
the best guy to get something out of Penix or Kirk Cousins or whatever.
Probably.
Because I don't even know is Penix going to be ready to go week 1? I don't know.
I'm not sold on him one way or the other.
I mean, me either, especially because of the injury things, but even without the injury. But I think that's solid. I didn't really understand it for him. I guess maybe the Ravens didn't have a ton of interest. I still would have ended up in Baltimore if I were him. But
I think right now, roster ready to go, I would say outside of Lamar, and you know my feelings on that.
Sure.
Atlanta's probably a better top to bottom roster right now.
Yeah. Let's see. The Dolphins with Jeff Hafley. Packers DC.
Joe Philbin part 2.
Let's hope that he's a little bit better than Joe Philbin.
I don't know what to think. No one knows what to think about this because no one knows anything about him.
Yeah.
It's like,
now, I guess I the one thing I will say is that
here, hold on, real quick. Let me expand on this just for a second. And this has nothing. I can't even remember the guy's name. It has nothing to do with him specifically.
Hafley.
You went and fired McDaniels because you wanted Harbaugh without knowing you had Harbaugh in the bag.
He was your coach for 4 years. You still don't know his name either.
Huh?
I said he was your coach for 4 years. You still don't know his name either.
Mike McDaniel. What are you talking about?
Well, you put an S on there.
Anyway, whatever. It's not the point. The point is you went all in to get Harbaugh and you didn't get it done. Not that I necessarily wanted Harbaugh. I have my opinions on that too. But I don't know. This is what you came up with?
I don't know that was ever the move though. Maybe the whole time it was Hafley because our GM, the guy we hired, was like executive of player personnel or whatever for the Packers. And so maybe the whole time we brought him in, we knew that was the guy.
But here's what I know. If you wanted a defensive guy, go get the best defensive guy out there. And that guy just signed with someone else.
Who?
Saleh.
Harbaugh? Oh, Saleh. Yeah.
If
I
you
mean,
wanted a defensive guy, go get the best defensive guy out there that's available.
that's fair.
Saleh or Tomlin. This guy, maybe he's going to be great.
Yeah.
But I know some guys that have some head coaching experience and are great at defense.
Yeah, but Robert Saleh's head coaching experience is with the Jets, so.
I know, and that's probably why he lost.
No, I agree. I'm not out on Saleh by any means necessarily. I don't necessarily think he fixes his
Again, it's
reputation
1A,
in
1B
Tennessee.
between Browns and Jets of being the worst in football.
Yeah,
as
no,
a
for sure.
run organization.
Well, I would say
right?
Track record of the last decade would say that it's actually Jets and Giants. I mean, there's no teams that have lost more games.
The Giants are going to figure shit out, though.
Maybe. I mean, what have they done?
Historically speaking, the Giants have done good stuff.
I mean, they had a couple lucky runs. Other than that, they had a Hall of Fame quarterback that literally had a 500 record because they were not well run. I don't blame Eli Manning for that.
They got 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, a couple of lucky runs.
How many do we have?
Nah, I'm aware. I'm not.
How many do the Jets have?
I'm not saying I wouldn't trade place with a Giants fan necessarily.
Drought in the league.
Sure, but I'm not saying that we're good. I'm just saying that over the last decade, no teams.
I'm just saying you can't say the Giants in the same word as you can the Jets and the Browns.
It's pretty close. It's a lot closer than you're giving it credit for.
No, it is not.
Over the last decade, the 2 losingest teams in the league are the Giants and the Jets. So.
Hey, next.
On that note, Robert Saleh to the Titans.
That's good. I like it.
I think he's a good coach. I mean, it's hard to tell, right?
Now, here's the problem. No matter what happens,
the OC really matters because you got to get Cam Ward.
Well, yeah, of course that matters. But no matter what happens, and I'm not sold on Cam Ward either. He's not Dart, but he's not far from Dart as far as exposure. The Titans, no matter what occurs, are still going to be the guy that gave up on Vrabel.
I mean, but that was like 4 years ago at this point. So
I know, but it's still dumb.
Sure.
Next, I like to hire.
Yeah. The last current head coach that has been hired is the Giants with Harbaugh. If you think
what you did is
if you think Dart can be the guy, I guess.
Hold on, I'm going to make this really simple. Now, I'm not completely convinced that Lamar hasn't started to step off of a little bit of a ledge. Yeah, I hope I'm wrong because he's fun to watch, right? Sure. So I hope I'm wrong about it. I'm not 100% convinced that this year wasn't a huge warning sign. I hope not, because I think he's a good guy, and I think
you just give him the whole offseason to recover as opposed to forcing him out there
and
after 5 games.
Hopefully I'm wrong. I like to watch him, whatever. Okay.
He was clearly still hurt.
But let's assume for a moment Lamar has not fallen off a cliff. Okay? Which is probably more likely than not. Okay? That he hasn't. Harbaugh couldn't get it done with Lamar Jackson. And you're telling me that it's a good thing that he has to try to do that now with Jackson Dart, who is not Lamar Jackson, right?
Really?
And he plays football like a moron.
That is true.
I'm not sure he's going to survive another season, much less win games. I like his attitude. I like his toughness, but he's an idiot. He's just not smart. And you've got to protect yourself at a certain level. Lamar, for the most part, throughout his career, is one of the more athletic running quarterbacks we've ever seen, but does so in a smart way. He avoids the big hits a lot of times.
Yeah, his injuries a lot of times are more
Dart
fluky.
Dart looks for it.
Yeah, and he's not Josh Allen.
No, he's not built like Josh Allen. He's not built like Cam Newton. That means you're not going to survive in this league.
No.
And then you add that to a running back who I think is super fun to watch.
But
they're the same person. They're the same person. And so now you're taking a guy that couldn't get it done with a pretty good roster,
right?
If not elite roster at times.
We saw what Harbaugh did with Lamar and Derrick Henry, and he got himself fired. And then you say, well, let me give you Jackson Dart and Cam Scatteraboo. Yeah. Right.
And you're saying this is better?
Yeah.
Like, I don't see it.
That's fair. I do ultimately think that Harbaugh is a good coach, obviously, but
here's
in terms of really
like
getting it,
Campbell,
he raises their floor probably. I mean, which is something that, again, over the last decade,
If both of those players are hurt by week 5, does it matter?
no, but also like over the last decade, again, only the Jets have lost more games than them. So you're trying to establish anything at all. I guess is my conclusion there. I don't know. I also don't understand it if I'm Harbaugh, because effectively Harbaugh could have had to take his pick, and like you said, like I don't trust. Maybe he just really trusts Jackson Dart in a way that we don't.
I wouldn't have signed anything until I found out about Buffalo.
Oh, for sure.
That would have been the job.
For sure. I wouldn't have if I was Stefanski either.
To pick New York.
Stefanski getting Josh Allen?
I know, that's the point. Like some of these guys that sort of had their pick.
Yeah.
Right? That's why I think Tomlin could be in that if he wants to coach.
Sure.
But like the Buffalo Bills take all of the firings. Let's assume no one's been hired yet.
Right.
The Buffalo Bills is the best job out there because you have
for sure,
a transcendent franchise quarterback.
Because you have the best player in the NFL.
Right. And so, like, I don't get the hire. I don't get it for the Giants. I don't get it for Harbaugh.
Yeah. No, I mean, I agree.
At least with Stefanski, I can say there's a lot of talent on that offensive side. The defense has overachieved at times.
For what it's worth, before it happened.
If you can figure the quarterback out, then okay.
Yeah, for what it's worth, before it happened.
Maybe they'll trade us Kirk Cousins for Tua.
For what it's worth, when it happened, I said that if I was Harbaugh, assuming that he was viewed as the best coach on the market, whenever it happened, I said that if I was Harbaugh, I would have picked to go to Atlanta because I believed that to be the best all-around job. Now, that was also before.
Yeah, I just don't get. I don't get the Giants from the Giants' perspective or Harbaugh's perspective.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree.
I don't get it. He's not in a better situation than he was, and he got fired for a reason.
Yeah. So the Ravens job is still open, right? And they've interviewed quite a few people, one of which was Mike McDaniel. But it did just come out literally, 10, 15 minutes before we started recording, that unless something drastic changes, and I would assume something drastic would mean that he gets a good head coaching offer. Unless something drastic changes, Mike McDaniel will be Jim Harbaugh's OC next year.
Oh, Chargers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking John for a second.
Right.
Look, I think there's 3.
That's kind of massive.
It is. I think there are 3 perfect landing spots for Mike McDaniel as a OC. Right. I don't think if I were a team, I would offer them head coaching year. I would want to see his OC style again. Right. I think there are 3 perfect spots. I had already named one, which is Detroit.
Yeah.
Obviously, with Herbert is a good one. I think the other one that would be off the chain interesting.
Okay.
Would be Tampa.
Yeah. I mean,
I
think
they got to get younger receiver, but it's an interesting because they've got a pretty good offensive line when it's healthy. They've got a good running back in Bucky Irving. You got to get a little bit of speed at wideout for a McDaniel offense, but that would also be super interesting to see.
There's currently a lot of turmoil there.
The New York thing, I don't get that. I don't get that for Mike McDaniel. Why would you go there?
Yeah, no, I agree.
I mean, you got a better role than Tua from a toughness and running perspective, but I don't know that Jackson Dart even has a better arm than Tua. So
I would say that just there's a lot of turmoil there right now, but I would say just from roster perspective, you'd have to put the Eagles OC on that list also, just because their defense is going to be elite, so that gives you a very easy floor.
Yeah,
winning. But,
I'm a believer in Hurts from a winning perspective. I've seen him throw great passes. I don't think he's not a good passer.
He's got a good deep ball, but you ask him to rein it in anywhere else, and it's kind of...
Yeah, it's a little bit of a struggle at times, but I think that can be coached with the right people there. Do I think that's the best fit for McDaniel? No.
No, I don't. But I was just saying you got to mention it. But like I said, unless something drastic happens, and this is not anybody saying it other than me, but just under the assumption, I would assume that something drastic happening would be in the next couple of days him getting an actual head coaching offer, which I don't think is going to happen. He will be the Chargers OC, so that'll be pretty cool for him. He's gonna get Herbert. He's gonna get his guy.
He's gonna get Herbert. They're gonna need some wide out help.
Unless he has the ability to just turn him into that.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that most people overlook about McDaniel that is underappreciated about him. He is great with the running game.
Yeah,
And
and
if
that'll
you
be big,
can create
especially
a
because
real
he's
good
gonna that
yeah.
offense, including Mike McDaniel now, right, is going to get 2 All-Pro tackles back that they had 2 years ago, that they did not have this year,
Yeah.
that they will have next year, and so that's
And so
massive.
my point being, a defense that played really good this year, a quarterback that we know has the right talent, and they've got a good running back. If Mike McDaniel can get that running game going to support
I mean,
Justin Herbert,
they've got a couple
and
pretty
they
solid running backs. I don't know that
yeah.
anybody's great,
I
but
mean, but I think
everybody was
again,
injured this year. Everybody was
but I
injured.
think if you do all that and get some more reliable receiver, it'd be interesting.
This is
All
for what
right.
it's worth, because it's my last ride with him. I am wearing my Mike McDaniel hoodie, but it's my
I saw.
last
Yeah,
ride. We
I saw.
hired a new head coach. I guess I got to get a Jeff Halfley hoodie now.
Yeah, let's just hold off on
Yeah,
that.
let's hold off on that. But fins up, all the time. So it is what it is.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, and then in terms of jobs still available, you've got the Ravens, the Raiders, the Browns. Ugh, who wants to coach there?
Well, I mean, the Browns is not a good job.
Right.
I actually think the Raiders can be.
The Bills now are on that list
I mean, the Bills are
of
the best job
open
of the
jobs.
off season that have been open. I
Right.
mean, when you can have that quarterback, there is no better job. Because in this league, if you don't get that right, you're not getting it right. Right. So, I
Right.
mean, the Bills, that's why it makes no sense to me. A couple of these guys jumped on it without waiting to see how all the rest of this played out. Because I told you, there was always an opportunity this was going to happen. Now, I thought it dramatically dropped after winning in the first round. But I think losing the way they did, it makes no sense to sign on the dotted line until you know for sure if that job's coming available. So,
Yeah. I also would say, last little note on that it really makes me mad the way that everything went down afterwards, because obviously I hate the Bills. Hard to hate Josh Allen, and him tearing up like that in the presser. I know you said something like, "Oh man, it's great to see Josh cry," but I think the
well, I'm a Dolphins fan. So,
afterwards he was getting emotional, and he said that it was really hard because he felt like he let the team down, and like it was all on him and whatnot. And then afterwards, Deion Dawkins, one of the linemen, reporters were telling him what Josh had said and like how he had responded and whatnot. And Deion Dawkins didn't even like respond. He just started to cry and then said, like, "Really?" Like, he did not let us down. And I understand that in that game, yes, the turnovers are a big problem, but just in general, I think that speaks to who
I think
Josh Allen is as a person, as
yeah,
a teammate, as a leader. Like it brought real emotion to his offensive lineman when he
look,
heard in general that Josh
I
in
I
himself was
said this
questioning
earlier.
himself and
If I were
getting
starting a
emotional.
franchise today, there's only one player I'm taking first. It's Josh Allen for all the reasons you just said. Now, but then we also have to be realistic. The reality is he did let his team down.
Sure, but I just think,
However, they wouldn't have even been there without him.
yeah, and I think that's where a lot of the emotion comes from too, is just like knowing that he drugged them there. Not that he would say that, but like Deion Dawkins, right? Like, and
I
knowing
mean, they
that,
all know it, right? Like
right? No, that's what I'm saying.
he has a well above average offensive line. They obviously have a really good running game with Cook. They have mediocre wide receivers. Josh Allen makes them better.
I would say pretty bad
But
wide
that's not true.
receiver.
Shakir is a really good receiver.
He's okay. He
He's
might be
not
the 20
Diggs.
he might be the 28th best number 1 in the league. He's a really good depth receiver.
Anyway, point is, if you're him, you make
I
guys
mean,
around you
Brandon
better.
Cooks turned into their best receiver in the playoffs,
I mean,
and
outside of
he was
Gronk
there
and
for 3
Randy Moss,
weeks.
Tom Brady never had a guy, right? And still won a bunch load of games. So my
Well,
point is,
Julian
if you're that
Edelman.
guy, again, Julian Edelman played anywhere else, you don't know who he is
No,
today.
for sure, but they had the chemistry, so that matters.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm just being realistic here. So, yes, he did, but they wouldn't have been there to begin with without him. And I think that's another reason McDermott's gone. I think there had to at least be a sentiment inside the building. Obviously, I don't know anybody. So I'm just making a guess here that you have to start wondering, would we get this far without McDermott just because we have Josh Allen? And if so, then that means our coach is not being a force multiplier. And that's
Right.
at least a fair question,
I think
right?
I think this
Your
year
coach
it's definitely a
has to be
fair question because he's a defensive coach and the defense was terrible. I'd say prior to this year, the question has a bit more of an argument to the other side.
Yeah, at least have to ask the question, right?
Yeah.
Because Josh Allen is that great a player. You're going to win games just because he's on your roster.
Right.
And so because of that, you have to start asking yourself, is McDermott making a difference at all?
Well, especially with the way the season ended.
Allen? And if he's not making a difference at all, then you do need to try something different because you need a coach that's going to be a full smart. You're going to take this. Let me give you an example as a Dolphins fan, and we're going to wrap it up on this because I got to go. Sacrilegious to Dolphins fan, but I'm about to mic drop here. Don Shula is the most overrated quarterback in the history of the game.
Head coach.
Huh?
You said quarterback.
I meant head coach.
Yeah.
It's late. What are you going to do? Most overrated head coach in the history of the game. I'm not talking about what he did in the 70s. Yeah, whatever. He went undefeated. Blah, blah, blah. We got a Super Bowl, or we got 2. And he had one with the Colts before that, right?
Right.
But the moment, and so this is my McDermott, Josh Allen comparison here, right? The moment he got Dan Marino, because most people forget, Don Shula was known for running game and defense. He was a defensive-minded head coach, right? He gets Dan Marino, who I would argue is the best quarterback that ever touched a football in the history of the game. And I get that I'm a Dolphins fan and there's some homerish there. But the reality is when you looked at the numbers that Dan Marino put up in 1985, 20 years before anybody else came close, there's just no doubt. There's just no question about that in my mind. I get people want to put the rings in there, whatever. If you take the rings in, then he's the best quarterback never to win a Super Bowl. Fine. However you want to word it. But as soon as Don Shula got that, and I get it's candy store, right? Like it's hard to overlook it. He no longer focused on defense and no longer focused on the running game and wasted Dan Marino's entire career, right?
So if you're the Bills, you're just trying to make sure that doesn't happen.
That's right, right? Because here's the thing with Don Shula during the Dan Marino era. They won games because Dan Marino, right? Don Shula didn't do anything to add wins to that total. Period, full stop. And you can argue that all day, but the reality is they averaged 10 wins a season with Dan Marino, and I remember games where the Dolphins would lose scoring 35 to 40 points, right? That means Don Shula's not doing his job, right?
Well,
so I'm not questioning long-term his state and history. He's obviously already a Hall of Famer. He won a lot of freaking games in this league, and I'm not saying that that's nothing. I am saying everybody considers him to be one of the best coaches of all time, and you wasted the prime of what I would argue is the best quarterback that ever stepped on a football field from pure raw arm talent. And if I'm a Bills owner and GM right now, I'm like, okay, is Sean McDermott adding wins to this roster or not? And if the answer is I'm not sure, then we need to find somebody that can force multiply Josh Allen.
Well, especially,
and I think McDermott's a good coach. I would rather have McDermott right now than the guy we just hired, in fairness. So it's not that I think that I think McDermott is a bad coach. I actually think he's a pretty good coach. But if he's not adding win totals to what Josh Allen can do on his own, then you're going to waste Josh Allen's prime. That's just a fact.
Especially when you look at the way the season ended. I mean, when we can talk about how the Broncos scored their 33 points, obviously off of 5 turnovers, right? But when you take an offense that was led by a mid quarterback all year who just played his best game as a pro against your defense, and they scored 33 points, right? Your offense, Josh Allen, still scored you 30 points, and you lost to an offense all year that was considered not good. So I agree with you. I think that especially when you look at the way it ended, again, they scored a lot of points off of turnovers, yes. But at the end of the day, Josh Allen still scored you 30 points, and you lost to a bad offense because they scored more.
Yep. Well, on that note, I'm pretty sure I won this today, so.
I don't know about that. We'll see about that. We'll see about next week where we're at next week whenever I go 2-0 and you did not.
Yeah, that's not happening.
So we did pick polar opposites.
Generational beef.
All right, well, thanks for tuning in, everybody. This was the first episode of the Generational Beef podcast. Catch us back probably next week, I'm assuming. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely subscribe. Turn the noties on. And yeah, we'll be back. Peace.